Am I proud to be a Filipino? Sometimes. Sometimes Filipinos are embarrassing when you're traveling around the world and you meet some of the Filipinos. You kind of go, oh my goodness, And there's a reason for that. There are a lot of Filipinos that have big insecurity complexes when they're outside of the Philippines. And they have to overcompensate for that insecurity by being loud or being obnoxious or demanding. And you see them when you travel. I travel a lot as part of my job. And there are a lot of Filipinos who are good people when you meet them, who will go out of their way to help you. It's happened to me in different countries in the world. In fact, I have this story that I left my mobile phone and my wallet in a taxi in Korea, who dropped me off in a location that wasn't where I was supposed to go. And I was walking. No one spoke English. There was no signs in English. I couldn't talk to anyone. And then I saw this store with the Filipino flag, and it was like a sari-sari store in the middle of this area. And I walked in, and there was a woman there who was Korean but spoke Tagalog because she had married a Filipino guy, and they were running this store. And the husband wasn't there, but the woman was there and her daughter. And I gave them my story that, look, some cab ditched me in the middle of, I don't know where I am. And as I was walking out, my wallet and my phone fell out. Would you mind helping me get back to, where I needed to go? And I said, I'll pay you, whatever for your time if you don't mind giving me a hand. Well, they were very nice. They gave me a hand, paid for a taxi for me, called someone to the taxi and then paid for the taxi. And they wouldn't let me pay them back. And I thought, okay, that makes you proud to be a Filipino. There are other times where you're kind of embarrassed to be a Filipino. For the most part, quite proud. So I think if the question is, when I'm representing myself, do I represent myself as a Filipino or as a Canadian? And when I'm in front of the Canadian friends or business associates, I call myself a Filipino. That's because I think the vision of changing the way the world views Filipinos, for me, comes from all these associations. I've met with entrepreneurs and CEOs and royalty from all over the world. And when you say you're Filipino, they think you're either a caregiver or a nurse. And in a lot of places around the world, that's a very valued and respected skill set that they long for and appreciate the Filipinos for. But we're also a lot more than that. And in some cases, if you're in the executive level or entrepreneurial level, Filipinos get discounted for their abilities because they think we're all nurses and caregivers, right? And as valuable as those professions are, we also deserve to be known for the other things we're good at. And that's where the vision of changing the way the world views Filipinos come from. I'd like the country to be known for more than the people that we export, but also the talent and innate caring and culture that we have. I think Filipinos work harder than most people, and they'll grind it out. If they feel that you care for them, they'll care back. And that term of utang na loob, a debt of gratitude, is not practiced in most places in the world. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a unique Filipino trait. It's what makes, working in the Filipino environment a bit more special than other people or than other places. It's because it's not just a transaction. It's an investment in each other's well-being that generates what we would call utang na loob and creates the fabric of a community. And then there's also the caring for children and elders that from a Filipino culture is far more valued than anywhere else I've seen in the world, where some of these, especially in the Western cultures, are now much more transactional than they are long-term investments in relationship. The third piece that I really enjoy and value from Filipino culture is no matter how hard things are, they can turn it into a fun event. I mean, if this is, what we got, we're going to make the most of it. And that's a very admirable trait. Since childhood, most Filipinos are told, be content, be happy. I mean, that's really what makes them content and happy, no matter what the world throws at them. But is that a double-edged sword? Probably, because you're right. If someone is trained during childhood to be content, then the drive and motivation to excel may not be as strong. Or even if it is, it's repressed by, the quote-unquote trauma of being told you should be content by your elders, by your teachers, by the religious clergy, by government. And suddenly, people are almost brainwashed to be in that state. Okay? And yeah, I mean, that can hurt the Filipino mindset. And what we hope to do at Nimbyx is to open people's eyes to say, being content is okay if it leads to happiness. But if you're not happy being content, we'll support you in changing the way the world views Filipinos and being someone more. Yes, I've met a lot. Right? And having what it takes and doing what it takes sometimes are two different things. Right? And so I've met a lot of people who had the brains, the talent, the ambition to, accomplish great things. There's a bit of a challenge in the Philippines. A lot of the wealthy kids get an opportunity to study in different countries and go to the best schools and so on. And unfortunately, they're also the ones who have, the least motivation or desire to put in the long grinding hours to make something of that education. And so there becomes a talent gap in the country where the people with most opportunity also have maybe the least motivation to do it because there's no need. And then the people who are far more motivated and want to change the trajectory of their lives are not exposed to the same educational opportunities that maybe others are. And so that's where the gap happens. And if there happens to be an intersection of the two, where someone has good fundamental training and the grit and ambition change the direction and trajectory of their life, then that's few and far between. And if you happen to be here, come interview with us because we'll support you. Those are the people we're looking for.